This is my story, a narrative etched in the harsh realities of life. I lost everything, piece by agonizing piece, to the relentless grip of addiction. It's a tale of descent, a cautionary whisper echoing in the corridors of my broken dreams. Picture me alone, utterly isolated in a barren apartment, a space stripped bare of comfort and hope. The only furniture, a stained mattress, a silent testament to nights of restless torment and days of hollow emptiness. It's a stark image of my rock bottom. I was surrounded not by walls, but by the echoes of my own despair, a cacophony of regret and self-loathing that reverberated through the empty space. Sobbing uncontrollably, I felt a suffocating darkness, a heavy blanket of hopelessness that smothered any flicker of hope. Once, not so long ago, I had a loving family, a warm embrace that shielded me from the storms of life. I had a promising career, a path paved with ambition and the promise of a brighter future. And I had friends, companions who shared laughter, dreams, and the simple joys of life. But addiction, like a relentless thief, stole it all, leaving me with nothing but the bitter taste of loss. Now I'm left with nothing but regret, a gnawing emptiness that consumes me from the inside out, and the crushing weight of my choices, a burden so heavy it threatens to break me completely. The room is filled with reminders of my failures, each object a painful jab at my shattered self-worth. Empty bottles, symbols of fleeting escapes and the deepening of my despair. Unpaid bills, a stark representation of my crumbling life and the financial ruin I brought upon myself. An eviction notice, a final decree of my displacement, a sign that I had nowhere left to turn. I was utterly alone, adrift in a sea of loneliness, with no lifeline in sight. Convinced the world would be better off without me, I stood at the precipice of despair, contemplating the ultimate surrender. At my lowest, I was ready to give up, to succumb to the darkness that had enveloped me. Believing there was no light left for me, I saw only shadows and the bleakness of a future devoid of hope. In that darkness, I felt completely defeated, crushed under the weight of my addiction and its devastating consequences. As if the battle for my soul was already lost, I stood on the edge of oblivion, teetering between despair and the faintest glimmer of a chance for redemption. My descent began innocently, just a drink after work. Then two, then a bottle addiction crept in, turning me into a stranger at home, driving away my family and friends. I lost my job, my home, and finally myself, haunted by a sense of spiritual oppression. Alone, I felt tormented by invisible forces, whispers of failure echoing in my mind. I tried to quit pouring bottles down the drain, but the emptiness always returned. Every attempt at willpower failed. Hope vanished. I was a shell, convinced the darkness was my final destination. I was in freefall, tumbling through a black abyss with no bottom in sight. On that cold, unforgiving floor, something profound began to shift within me. The weight of my despair, which had felt insurmountable only moments before, seemed to loosen its grip ever so slightly. In the depths of my anguish, a memory, long dormant, surfaced. A memory of my mother's unwavering faith. It was a faith I had once known, a faith that had been a constant in my childhood. I remembered her gentle voice, clear and strong, singing hymns in church every Sunday. The melodies, once so familiar, now echoed in the chambers of my mind, bringing with them a sense of longing. It was a faith I'd long dismissed, casting it aside as irrelevant to the harsh realities I believed I faced. I had walked away, convinced that I knew better. Now, stripped bare of all defenses, with nothing left to cling to, I closed my eyes in a gesture of complete surrender and whispered a desperate plea. Jesus, if you are real, if you're truly there, please help me. I don't know what else to do. The words were raw, unpolished, and filled with a vulnerability I hadn't allowed myself to express in years. It wasn't eloquent, just honest. It was a simple, heartfelt cry for help, born out of utter desperation, a white flag of surrender, finally raised after a long and arduous battle against myself. In that moment, I let go of my pride, my cynicism, and all the walls I had so carefully constructed around my heart, and reached out into the darkness. I was hoping, against all reason, that someone, somewhere was listening to my desperate plea. The oppressive darkness didn't vanish instantly. The shadows still clung to the corners of the room. But slowly, almost imperceptibly, it began to lift, like a dawn breaking after a long and terrible night. The demonic whispers that had tormented me for so long began to fade, their power diminishing with each passing moment. They were replaced by a quiet, inexplicable peace, a stillness that settled over my mind and body like a gentle balm. For the first time in years, I felt the possibility of hope flicker within me, a fragile ember in the darkness. A tiny seed of faith, dormant for so long, was finally planted in my heart, watered by tears of desperation and longing. I looked around the room with a new awareness, a sense that I was no longer alone in that room, that something had shifted in the unseen realm. That prayer unlocked a door in my heart. "Call your mother," a thought urged me. I hadn't spoken to her in a year, but shame was replaced by a gentle nudge inside me. I called her and confessed everything, and she simply said, "Come home, Mina." At her doorstep, she welcomed me with open arms, no judgment, just love. She introduced me to her pastor, who listened to me without preaching. For the first time, I felt seen for who I was, not just my failures. I began reading the Gospels, feeling the words speak directly to my brokenness. The presence of the Holy Spirit brought me comfort, replacing the old darkness inside me. I was invited to a church crusade, and I took my first steps toward hope, unsure but willing. At the crusade, I found myself surrounded by an atmosphere I'd never quite experienced before. The air was thick with anticipation and hope. I was overwhelmed by the music and the palpable joy radiating from everyone around me. It was a collective celebration, a symphony of voices lifted in praise. I saw a freedom I desperately craved, a lightness of spirit that always seemed to elude me in my daily life. I longed to experience that same sense of liberation. As the music swelled, the lyrics pierced my heart, resonating with a deep part of me that I had long tried to ignore. Memories surfaced, moments of both joy and profound regret, flashing before my eyes like scenes from a forgotten film. I began to recognize that God's quiet presence had always been there, a constant companion even when I felt most alone. Even in my darkest times, when I felt utterly lost and consumed by despair, there was a faint glimmer of hope, a divine spark refusing to be extinguished. I realized with a profound sense of relief that I had never truly been abandoned. God's love had been a constant, unwavering force in my life. God had been waiting patiently for me, ready to embrace me with open arms and guide me toward a path of healing and restoration. When the invitation came, an opportunity to publicly declare my faith, I felt an irresistible pull. I walked forward, tears streaming down my face, each step a testament to my newfound hope and the burden I was finally ready to release. I knelt at the altar, ready to surrender my past and embrace a new life filled with purpose and meaning. Baptized, symbolizing the death of my old self, I felt the weight of my past washed away, the chains of addiction and despair dissolving in the water, emerging a new person, cleansed and renewed by the grace of God. Today, my life is transformed, a testament to the power of faith and the boundless love of Jesus. Joy has replaced despair, filling my days with laughter and gratitude, and I am free from addiction, liberated from the chains that once held me captive. I share my story with gratitude, eager to spread the message of hope and redemption to others. I testify that Jesus saved me, offering living proof of the transformative power of faith. What Jesus did for me, the miracle he performed in my life, he can do for anyone who opens their heart and invites him in. Sometimes all it takes, the first step toward a life transformed, is a whispered prayer, a simple plea for help and guidance.